Every once in a while, a Pokemon fan game comes around that just blows me away, with either its graphical quality, engaging storytelling, or intricate battle system. But what I'm here to talk about today isn't another project with just one of those, because when I got the notification for this game's update, I stopped everything I was doing and downloaded it immediately. Once it was installed, I opened it up and almost didn't stop until I was finished playing. The name of that game? It was Pokemon Flux. Now, I'm sure that's a name many of you in the active fan game community have heard before, with its massive popularity spike in 2023. But in this video, I'm here to tell you why with its new update, it's an absolutely must-play Pokemon fan game. So let's begin with a bit of an introduction to the game. Pokemon Flux is a fan game with over 150 new Pokemon, taking place in a brand new region. And to make this review a bit clearer, I'll be talking about its story, exploration, and battle mechanics in 3 different segments. But I think the best way to start talking about the game is with its story. It begins with an opening cutscene of the region's champion facing off against another powerful trainer, and unleashing a powerful attack called Flux, which I'll talk about more later. From here, you'll be introduced to your 2 rivals and receive 2 starters, one based on the protagonist you choose, and another that's completely up to you. As a Pokemon trainer, your main goal is to challenge the league, but in the region of Altera, it's handled a bit differently. Instead of collecting 8 gym badges, you'll only have to collect 3 league emblems. These are obtained from different arenas around the region, where you'll face off against other competitors of your choice before finally fighting the league boss. While that sounds very similar to just fighting less gym leaders, the league bosses have less of a focus around a single type, and instead seem to be themed around the Pokemon living in the area. But in between your league challenge, there are plenty of other conflicts you'll be dealing with. So once again, it won't feel like a shorter gym challenge. As for the actual quality of the story, the first chapter is very grounded. The writing feels similar to something Game Freak themselves would put out. Not bad at all, but nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. I still found most of the characters to be fun, and the lore tidbits that were thrown at me to be interesting. But Chapter 2 is where the story takes a bit of a shift. Characters will sound a lot more mature, and the similar conflicts you were facing before feel a lot more threatening. I personally enjoyed the story as it felt like a nice break from the hefty fan game narratives I'm used to, while still being an entertaining read. One of my favorite parts about Flux, though, was the exploration and smooth progression through its world. The first thing I want to say is that the game is absolutely beautiful. The routes feel very alive, with the various animations, custom lighting, and of course, overworld encounters. This might just be the best feature in the entire game, because not only does it make finding the Pokemon you want to capture a lot easier, but it also makes traversing routes a lot quicker, as you'll be spending very little time running into unwanted Pokemon and running away. It's pretty to look at, it's fun to play with, and it saves the player so much time. Speaking of saving time, no one likes backtracking, right? Thankfully, in Pokemon Flux, you can fly anywhere you've already been to, by just selecting it on the map. And this feature is unlocked incredibly early, so you'll be spending a lot less time walking back to the Pokemon Center, and a lot less money on healing items, which are already pretty cheap for what they're worth now. There are just so many areas to explore. A lot you won't even find in the main story, so if you're a fan of exploration, make sure to check every nook and cranny, because trust me, some of the treasures you'll find will really make it worth your time. One of the biggest concerns I've seen players have with fan games that offer both good visuals and a good story is it feeling lackluster on the Pokemon battling side. But here, that's not the case, because Pokemon Flux introduces a brand new mechanic called Flux Moves. During battle, you can unleash a powerful attack that first raises your stats, and then hits both enemy Pokemon on the field for a ton of damage. And while that might sound like a Z-move clone, it's very far from that. Flux moves are very customizable, as rather than being tied to your Pokemon's type, you can set the stat boost and type of attack to be whatever you want. But to obtain the currency to purchase these moves, you'll have to defeat Alter Pokemon. Empowered by a mysterious red energy, they're stronger than your average wild styled opponent, and will even unleash Flux moves back at you. They'll mostly be found in the story, but you can also take down plenty of them running through the wild. They'll drop Flux machines, EXP candies, and Flux shards that let you purchase even more Flux machines. But the non-story encounters will be catchable after you defeat them, and even have a chance to possess their hidden ability. Now, if you were wondering why the game hands you 2 starter Pokemon instead of just 1, it's not just because they were being generous. In the Altera region, double battles are recognized as the official format, which I personally found to be a lot more interesting, especially with the new gimmick. But don't worry, because there are still a lot of single battles in the game, mostly found in random route trainers. Although, all the important story fights will be done in the doubles format. Before we move on, I did want to talk about the quality of life offered in Flux. First, EXP is shared across your entire team. I don't believe there's a way to turn it off, but I also don't think you'll find a need to either, as I never found myself over-leveled, and your active Pokemon gain a huge portion of the EXP anyways. Next, you'll have access to a mover learner at every Pokemart. It does come at a cost, but for how much money the game gives you, and how little of it I needed to spend on other things, it's not a cost that will make much of a difference. Finally, something I feel might go unnoticed is just how many free heals the game gives you. You'll be healed up after just about every rival battle, and there are a lot of moments where you'll have an ally traveling alongside you. Not to mention, at around the halfway point through the game, you'll also unlock a free full team heal, which you can recharge at any Pokemon Center. The changes aren't drastic, but for a project trying to feel like a Game Freak title, they are very welcome. But Pokemon Flux isn't perfect. As much as I love the game, I do have a few gripes with it. The biggest would have to be the difficulty of raising new team members. In the early game, this isn't much of a problem, with the EXP and differences in levels being pretty low. But once you get to the high level 30s, trying to train up low level Pokemon takes way longer than I feel it should. I feel like this could be solved by either increasing the EXP candy drops from altars, or increasing the experience your Pokemon gain, depending on how low their levels are compared to the recently defeated opponents. Another solution could also be allowing the player to purchase EXP candies, but I'm a bit on the fence about that one, because it could allow for some easy overleveling. At the same time though, I think that can be avoided if the prices are balanced properly. I just want to say though, that I was really blown away by the game. From its beautiful world to its animated sprites in battle, it's really hard for me to believe a free-to-play fan game like this even exists. Especially considering Episode 2 released less than 2 years after Episode 1. And even though the game isn't finished, I still highly suggest jumping into it, as there's currently over 20 hours of available content, and your save files will be compatible with future versions of the game. But with my scores on screen, I will be giving it an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to the developers of Pokemon Flux for creating such an incredible game. Thank you to my channel members for their support, and have a nice rest of your day.